Hello, my name is Cal Fleming. I live in Brunswick. I have 3 daughters. I lost one of my daughters last year to her addiction, and I'm here to tell my story.
Cal, thank you so much for coming out and speaking with us today about the loss in your family and how addiction has affected your life. So tell me a little bit about what it was like becoming a father.
That one there, I don't know if I was totally prepared. We've been married for 5 years, and she was still interested in theater. I was still working, and I really hadn't started any kind of career. I was still finding myself, believe it or not, at 30. Trying to see, do I really want to do what I was doing for a living? So I was experimenting. I had my full-time job, and I was taking part-time jobs to see if I wanted to venture out. I was doing real estate, and I finally worked at Fairview Hospital. But I'll never forget the day she told me. She made a dinner, and then she had a card, and I remember sitting down. It was at our first house. We lived in a double, and we were upstairs, and I opened the card, and then it was that poem about baby and me, or make 3, and I went, what? And that's how she sprung it on me. I'm like, okay, here we go, And it was just like, well, I knew it was going to happen sooner or later, and it wasn't like we set a time. We go, okay, we're mature enough. We better hurry up, or we're chasing the clock. And I was 6 years older than her, and we said, and I was fine with it. And I didn't have any aspirations. I was typical. Give me a healthy baby. I didn't care if it was boy, girl. I didn't care, and I had the pleasure of seeing all 3 of my girls be born and take their first breath. That was awesome. I was filming it, I was documenting it, and I was there for every minute of it. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah.
And what was it like growing up in a household, growing up as an adult in a household full of women?
Rough. I prayed for deafness because I remember I would pull in the driveway after working 2 jobs, and I would pull in the driveway, and the garage door would be open, and the windows would be open, and I could hear the chaos going on in that house. I went, and I'd back out. I'll go around the block for another time or 2 and see if it settles down. And but I actually loved having 3 girls around because they do have an attention for their father. And we had a thing that kind of an understanding. Mom was the ruler. She set the rules and she guided them. Dad was the fun guy. And so they would want to go out for a ride with Dad, and because Dad would break the rules, and I have him in the back seat. She didn't know half the stories until we, later on we told them, but I would take the car and waddle it around the highway, and they're flying around the back of the car because they're not seatbelted in. They go, Daddy! We'll go around for another time. So that was the thing we had. That was our thing. Yeah.
So when was it that you started recognizing that Alycia was having a little bit of
Well, I would get told by Athena that we don't know where she is. And she would go MIA on us. And then we have to do all the tracking. And then when it happens once or twice, teenage thing, and then it got more frequent. And then it became harder to find her, too. And then eventually we would find where she was. But kids do certain things. They just, you never know. You can't say, well, the oldest one didn't do it. You don't expect it from the second one. But I have a brother that was that way. He would always wander off and do his own thing. So to me, that was almost a normal, kind of. But it became frequent, and then it became secretive when she wouldn't tell us where she was. But she was very crafty. I mean, she was very intelligent. She would, climb out a window and jump off a roof to get out, and she knew how to get back and almost be undisclosed. You wouldn't know she was gone all night. No matter how much we tried to discipline her, she was tough. I told my wife that she could be a CIA agent because she never broke. She was the toughest girl I've ever seen in my life. She never broke. And then even when we were standing in front of her and practically crying and begging her to stop doing this, she didn't bat an eyelash and then didn't shed a tear. And that shocked me. I was absolutely shocked that a girl that age could be that hard. She developed that crust, But and on the other hand, I think it's how she survived when she went to the streets. She had this toughness that I was shocked how well she did survive, as long as she did, and being small and what have you, and knowing the environment and the people she hung with, it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
She was scrappy, that's for sure.
She was tough.
She was.
Yeah, she didn't take any guff. The girls, her sisters, knew she was tough. Yeah.
Now, how did all of this, as it started coming out and gaining a little bit of stuff, how did it affect your relationships with the other girls, or your wife, or family, or whatever?
I have to be honest. I think it strained our relationship with my wife, because there was a lot of tension. There was never any peace in the house. It was a constant repair job, and what are we going to do with Alycia? She was the center of the attention every day, pretty much. There was times where she was gone and you didn't know what she was doing. We could focus on something else, but she really consumed a lot of air in the room. And the girls, they looked at me and they saw my anger, and they kind of joined in on that, and they were angry at the same time too, because she was stealing attention from them. They were doing all this great stuff, but in the background there was all this turmoil, and so there was an anger there, and I coming from a place I've never been experienced to this, I didn't know how to respond to it but I was very angry at the time. I tried to help her out as much as I could. I mean, I kept getting her vehicles so she could get to work and maybe do something constructive, and then she would trash it, and I had to get her another one, and she went through quite a few cars, and I felt guilty because the other girls hadn't even got one, and she was getting all this attention and cars and all that, but we felt it's a catch-22. If I don't get her a car, she can't get a job. If I give her a car, she can go search for drugs, and it's a circle. And I don't know. I think she just saw it as an opportunity. I didn't get the feedback that I was looking for.
So when she started having those little bits of lengths of sobriety, and she started working kind of a program of recovery, even though it was on and off,
right?
How did that affect your relationship?
That was the bright spot. That was really because there was a calm in the storm. And it was awesome. And she would be home. I could see her, or if she wasn't at home, it was later on. I knew I could talk to her on the phone. I knew she was okay. She wasn't living on the streets, or she was in a facility that somebody was watching her, and that was the few moments I had that I really felt good. It was a long struggle, it really was. But I felt I could sleep at night knowing where she was. That was the hardest part. Never knowing where she was. Are you on the streets? Who are you hanging with? And how dangerous is your situation right now? As a father. And there was some times when she was living at home where I had to go fetch her myself. I didn't want to get the police involved, and she put me in some hairy situations. She was living at drug houses and stuff, and I had to go down in those areas late at night, and I didn't appreciate it. And then when she fought me about going home, that didn't even make it any better. But I wanted her out of there, and then I had to do what I had to do to get her home. She may not have appreciated it, and she might have been embarrassed, but I had to get her out of there. She might run right back, but at least I took the shot and got her home, for the night.
Yeah. It's so, I kind of want to talk about this together, but I want to do it anyway. It's so interesting to me how, we, especially with Alycia, so she lived in these places, she was staying at these places, she was going to these places that were just so dangerous, and then she would be in recovery housing, and it was almost like she would get restless there. Like it was like
she had a low attention span. She was an adrenaline person. Yeah. She liked it. She liked speed. Mm-hmm. She would tell me stories that she would be riding on a friend's motorcycle doing 130 miles an hour. She was skydiving. Mm-hmm. She needed to be stimulated, I think, with that adrenaline. That was her thing. She liked the adventure. She liked the challenge, and if it was dangerous, giddy up, and that was okay with her, And that's. I'm kind of the same way. I have a very low attention span, not as much as hers, but I do, and I could see where she got that. Yeah.
What did you learn from her addiction?
Compassion.
Cal, thank you so much for coming out here and sharing your story of hope. What you have shared today is going to help so many people who think they're alone and are struggling with their addict and how to help them. You're proof that there is a way out of this.